about why all of it took was to begin with. In Oxford, Victor Williams with New4News. NGT. Devon. Fine Victor, let's travel to the victims and to people who square measure still attempting to recover and their families as a result of THOXFOCOMNITYSREADCOMING along to do. To show support for them, too. NGT. Kimberly. We've conferred few vigils around city. First up. Whole bunch gathered at Lake Purpose Community Church in Oxford. Our Tim Pamplin was there for the emotional lightweight vigil. Close to 1,000 individuals crammed into Lake Purpose. Charge. Dispelled all of Oxford hurts. Work and life prayer vigil. And for the community to do too. Build some sense. I do not perceive. Ministers asking that you simply keep the oldsters in mind. United Nations agency at 3 o'clock to not have the kid dawn. For the scholars fighting for their lives. If you're express emotioning and crying, I wish you to weep and cry into the arms of God. For those thus innocent to ought to add up of this and to be comfortable by those abundant. Wiser. Every feeling is on the table tonight. We have a tendency to square measure tired this along. And we have a tendency to aren't alone. We are going to get through it along. And that we can get through it unchanged. Thinking this moment of one of the ministers aforementioned to the Oxford High United Nations agencies WHO felt snug to square up and be recognized. Several tears being shed this evening. Thus tonight you see someone else crying, cry with them. Tomorrow if you see someone crying, cry with them. We have a tendency to square measure attending to keep crying as COURE, tilde and to rie to love each other. One amongst the scholars that was shot and brought to the hospital was discharged and is here tonight. Applause. Tonight, the healing during this community begins. That's in Oxford, New4News. Kimberly. Okay Tim. At constant time another vigil was being commanded simply down the road at Kensington Church. We have a tendency to square measure told many Oxford students to attend services of that church yet. Larry spoke with the pastor and joins US Digest a lot of. Larry. Good evening Kimberly. The service here was terribly emotional. There have been loads of scholars and that they were crying and necking one another and they were simply attempting to perceive what happened. They tell Pine Tree State that they might ne'er forget nowadays. Let's offer one another the freedom to be wherever we have a tendency to square measure at a press into each other right currently. Tears, necking in disbelief may be seen on several faces here at Kensington Church in Ligori on. Students, parents, friends met here for a prayer meeting attempting to cope and somewhat handle the tragedy that happened at their college, Oxford High School. The pastor tells Pine Tree State that they would always remember this mass shooting. One factor that walk Pine Tree State tonight was gazing our high college boys with the stereotypes of our guys square measure powerful guys, and there was a man in there that wasn't terribly broken, each unhappy. You'll feel the hurt within of the sanctuary and lots of recalling the instant they found out that a 15-year old open hearth at the varsity. I feel it hit Pine Tree State sort of a ton of bricks as I begin to method the absolute brokenness in our world. Simply however broken it's that we have a tendency to square measure sitting there in every one of it unexpected. You're like, square measure, you kidding? Is it real? Lead pastor aforementioned he failed to believe it initially, however once he started obtaining calls and text very hit. This was real. Considered those youngsters packed with concern and nervous and fastened in their rooms, their families, and it is difficult. Several inquisitive why What happened during this youngster's life that lead him to an area that he would do that? What quite brokenness was in him that this was the choice that he created nowadays, and that I suppose the opposite place that the longest being a papa was the thought of 3 families motility the lights off tonight with different youngsters reception. Currently several of the scholars at the high school that they attend church here. They needed to come back simply to have some variety of closure of some variety of emotional reference to the scholars. Several of them told Pine Tree stayed off. They failed to wish to speak Pine Tree stayed on, however they aforementioned one th thanks for watching.